Question 1. Operational review demonstrates a potential security vulnerability within a specific multicast group configuration on the Alcatel Lucent network, which could allow unauthorized devices to join and potentially intercept or disrupt traffic. The engineer has identified the specific configuration causing the issue, but is aware that disabling this multicast group without prior notification could impact several critical business applications. What is the most professional and ethically sound course of action for the network engineer? Option A. Publicly disclose the vulnerability on a security forum to alert the wider community and seek advice on mitigation strategies. Option B. Document the vulnerability thoroughly, including its potential impact, and escalate it through the established security incident reporting and change management channels for a planned remediation. Option C. Immediately disable the multicast group to prevent any potential exploitation, and then inform management of the action taken. Option D. Ignore the vulnerability as it is a low-probability risk and fixing it would cause significant operational disruption. Correct answer is C. Immediately disable the multicast group to prevent any potential exploitation, and then inform management of the action taken. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a network engineer discovers a potential security vulnerability in a multicast implementation that could be exploited by unauthorized parties. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to address the vulnerability with the potential impact on ongoing network operations and the established procedures for change management. The engineer must exercise sound judgment to determine the most responsible course of action, considering both technical and operational implications. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation and documentation of the vulnerability, followed by a structured escalation process. This aligns with best professional practices and the implicit ethical obligation to maintain network security and integrity. By documenting findings and escalating through appropriate channels, the engineer ensures that the issue is addressed systematically, with proper oversight and planning, minimizing the risk of unintended consequences from hasty actions. This approach respects established protocols for network changes and security incident response, which are crucial for maintaining a stable and secure network environment. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately disabling the multicast group without proper authorization or investigation. This action, while seemingly addressing the vulnerability, could disrupt critical services that rely on that multicast group, leading to operational failures and potential financial or reputational damage. This bypasses established change management procedures and lacks the necessary due diligence, representing a failure in professional responsibility and potentially violating internal operational guidelines. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the vulnerability due to the perceived complexity or potential disruption of fixing it. This is a clear ethical failure, as it knowingly allows a security risk to persist, potentially exposing the network to exploitation. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to network security and professional integrity, and could lead to significant breaches if the vulnerability is exploited. A third incorrect approach is to disclose the vulnerability publicly without following internal reporting procedures. This could alert malicious actors to the exploit before it is mitigated, increasing the risk of attack. It also undermines the organization's security posture and violates confidentiality protocols, representing a significant breach of professional ethics and potentially company policy. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a dilemma should employ a structured decision-making process. First, they must gather all relevant technical information and assess the severity and potential impact of the vulnerability. Second, they should consult internal policies and procedures regarding security vulnerabilities and change management. Third, they should communicate their findings and propose solutions to their immediate supervisor or the designated security team, providing a clear and concise report. Finally, they should follow the established escalation and remediation path, ensuring that any actions taken are authorized, documented, and implemented with minimal disruption to network operations. This systematic approach ensures accountability, promotes collaboration, and upholds professional standards. Question 2. The performance metrics show a significant degradation in multicast traffic delivery to a critical user segment, impacting real-time video conferencing. The network operations team is under immense pressure to restore service immediately. A senior engineer suggests a quick workaround: temporarily disabling IGM snooping on a specific switch segment to allow all multicast traffic to flood, thereby ensuring delivery, while a permanent fix is investigated. This approach is proposed to be implemented without a full analysis of the security implications or the long-term impact on network performance and other services. What is the most professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Immediately implement the proposed workaround to restore multicast traffic delivery to the affected users, as service restoration is the highest priority. Option B. Proceed with disabling IGM snooping as suggested, assuming the risk of potential security vulnerabilities is acceptable given the critical nature of the service outage. Option C. Restart all multicast-related services on the affected switch segment to see if the issue resolves itself, without further investigation. Option D. Initiate a thorough root cause analysis of the multicast traffic degradation, consulting Alcatel Lucent documentation for the specific multicast protocols in use, and develop a solution that adheres to established best practices before implementing any changes. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement the proposed workaround to restore multicast traffic delivery to the affected users, as service restoration is the highest priority. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the conflict between immediate operational needs and long-term network integrity, particularly concerning multicast traffic. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that might violate established protocols or introduce security vulnerabilities. The ethical dilemma lies in balancing the urgency of the situation with the responsibility to maintain a secure and reliable network, adhering to Alcatel-Lucent's best practices and the implicit trust placed in network engineers. Careful judgment is required to assess the true impact of a proposed workaround versus the risks of delaying service restoration. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation of the root cause of the multicast traffic disruption, followed by a solution that aligns with Alcatel-Lucent's documented multicast protocols and best practices. This upholds professional integrity by ensuring that network changes are understood, tested, and implemented in a controlled manner. Adhering to established protocols, even under pressure, prevents the introduction of unforeseen issues, maintains network stability, and ensures compliance with vendor guidelines, which are often designed to prevent security breaches and performance degradation. This approach prioritizes long-term network health and security over short-term fixes. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a workaround that bypasses standard multicast protocol configurations without a full understanding of its implications is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to security vulnerabilities, such as unauthorized multicast group access or denial of service attacks, which are direct violations of network security principles and potentially the implicit service level agreements. Such an action also disregards the vendor's recommended operational procedures, potentially voiding support agreements or leading to unexpected behavior that is difficult to troubleshoot later. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold the professional standard of ensuring network stability and security. Another incorrect approach would be to simply restart multicast services without diagnosing the underlying issue. This is a reactive measure that does not address the root cause and could lead to the problem recurring, impacting network reliability and user experience, and failing to meet the professional obligation to provide a stable and resilient service. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should employ a structured decision-making process. First, clearly define the problem and its impact. Second, explore all available solutions, prioritizing those that adhere to established protocols and vendor best practices. Third, assess the risks and benefits of each potential solution, considering both short-term and long-term consequences. Fourth, consult relevant documentation and, if necessary, seek guidance from senior engineers or vendor support. Finally, implement the chosen solution in a controlled and documented manner, followed by verification and monitoring. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, ethical, and aligned with professional responsibilities. Question 3. Implementation of a critical multicast protocol issue is causing significant service disruption for a major client. The immediate fix requires a temporary bypass of a specific security hardening measure that is normally mandatory. The standard procedure for such a bypass involves a multi-day approval process, which is unacceptable given the client's current outage. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action? Option A. Proceed with the workaround without informing anyone, as the priority is to restore service to the client as quickly as possible. Option B. Immediately implement the workaround to restore service, then initiate the standard approval process retrospectively and inform the client of the temporary measure and its risks. Option C. Escalate the issue to senior management and the security team, clearly outlining the problem, the proposed temporary solution, the risks, and the need for expedited approval, seeking authorization for the bypass. Option D. Inform the client that the issue is critical and will be resolved through standard procedures, even though it will take several days, and do not implement any temporary measures. Correct answer is B. Immediately implement the workaround to restore service, then initiate the standard approval process retrospectively and inform the client of the temporary measure and its risks. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical responsibility to maintain network integrity and security while adhering to contractual obligations and potentially conflicting internal policies. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to resolve a critical multicast issue impacting a significant customer with the potential long-term consequences of bypassing established security protocols. The pressure to restore service quickly can create a temptation to take shortcuts, which could have severe repercussions if not handled with extreme care and proper authorization. This situation requires a nuanced judgment call, prioritizing both operational efficiency and adherence to security, best practices, and regulatory compliance. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves escalating the issue through the appropriate channels to obtain explicit authorization for a temporary deviation from standard security protocols. This aligns with best professional practice because it acknowledges the severity of the situation, while ensuring that any deviation is documented, understood, and approved by relevant stakeholders, including security and management. This process upholds regulatory compliance by demonstrating a commitment to security policies, even when exceptions are made under controlled circumstances. It also ensures accountability and provides a clear audit trail, which is crucial for post-incident review and future policy refinement. This approach prioritizes transparency and responsible decision-making, mitigating risks associated with unauthorized access or configuration changes. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a workaround without proper authorization, even if it resolves the immediate issue, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses established security controls, creating vulnerabilities that could be exploited. This action undermines the integrity of the network security framework and violates the principle of least privilege. Furthermore, demonstrates a lack of accountability and can lead to an erosion of trust within the organization and with clients. Such actions could also contravene specific clauses in service-level agreements, SLAs, or data protection regulations that mandate secure handling of network configurations and customer data. Proceeding with the workaround without informing the customer about the potential risks or the temporary nature of the solution is also an ethical failure. It deprives the customer of informed consent and the opportunity to assess their own risk tolerance. This lack of transparency can damage the professional relationship and lead to reputational harm for the organization. It also fails to meet the ethical obligation of clear and honest communication, which is a cornerstone of professional conduct in customer-facing roles. Ignoring the issue and waiting for a standard resolution, despite the critical impact on the customer, is a failure of professional responsibility and customer service. While adhering to protocols is important, the severity of the impact necessitates proactive engagement and escalation. This passive approach can lead to significant financial losses for the customer, damage the organization's reputation, and potentially violate contractual obligations related to service availability. It demonstrates a lack of initiative and commitment to client success. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such dilemmas should employ a structured decision-making process. First, they must accurately assess the impact and urgency of the issue. Second, they should consult relevant policies, procedures, and contractual obligations. Third, they must identify potential solutions, evaluating the risks and benefits of each, with a strong emphasis on security and compliance. Fourth, if a deviation from standard procedure is contemplated, they must identify the appropriate escalation path and seek explicit authorization from the relevant authorities, e.g., security team management. Fifth, all actions, decisions, and communications must be meticulously documented. Finally, a post-incident review should be conducted to identify lessons learned and improve future processes. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are not only effective, but also ethical, compliant, and professionally sound. Question 4. Governance review demonstrates that multicast traffic efficiency on a large enterprise network utilizing Alcatel Lucent equipment has become a concern, leading to increased latency for certain applications. The network operations team is tasked with optimizing multicast group management to improve performance. Considering the need for efficient multicast delivery and adherence to operational guidelines, which of the following approaches best addresses this challenge? Option A. Implement a dynamic multicast group pruning strategy that aggressively removes inactive groups based on a short timeout period without extensive pretesting to quickly reduce overhead. Option B. Conduct a thorough analysis of multicast traffic patterns and receiver behavior, consult Alcatel Lucent's recommended multicast optimization guides, and perform controlled testing of proposed configuration changes in a lab environment before production deployment. Option C. Manually adjust multicast routing parameters on core routers based on informal feedback from application owners, prioritizing immediate perceived improvements over systematic validation. Option D. Disable multicast for non-critical applications to reduce the overall multicast load, without a comprehensive assessment of the impact on dependent services or alternative traffic delivery mechanisms. The correct answer is A. Implement a dynamic multicast group pruning strategy that aggressively removes inactive groups based on a short timeout period, without extensive pretesting, to quickly reduce overhead. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge stemming from the need to balance network performance optimization with adherence to established Alcatel-Lucent multicast protocol configurations and the underlying regulatory framework governing network operations. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing changes that improve efficiency without introducing instability or violating service-level agreements, SLAs, or compliance mandates. Careful judgment is required to assess the impact of proposed optimizations on multicast traffic flow, resource utilization, and overall network integrity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven, and compliant method for process optimization. By leveraging Alcatel-Lucent's recommended best practices and validating changes through controlled testing, it ensures that optimizations are effective, sustainable, and do not inadvertently compromise network stability or regulatory adherence. This aligns with the principles of responsible network management, which emphasize proactive risk assessment and mitigation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on aggressive multicast group pruning, without considering the potential impact on active receivers or the underlying network topology, represents a regulatory failure. It could lead to service disruption for legitimate users, violating SLAs and potentially contravening regulations that mandate reliable service delivery. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing configuration changes based on anecdotal evidence or without proper validation testing is ethically questionable. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the potential negative consequences on network performance and user experience, which can have broader compliance implications. A third incorrect approach that bypasses established change management procedures for expediency, even with good intentions, undermines the governance framework. This can lead to unrecorded changes, making troubleshooting difficult and potentially introducing security vulnerabilities or compliance gaps that are hard to track and rectify. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the current network state and the specific optimization goals. This should be followed by an assessment of potential solutions against Alcatel-Lucent's documented best practices and relevant regulatory requirements. Any proposed changes must undergo rigorous impact analysis and controlled testing in a lab environment before being deployed to production. A robust change management process, including rollback plans, is essential to mitigate risks and ensure accountability. Continuous monitoring and performance evaluation post-implementation are also critical for validating the success of the optimization and identifying any unforeseen issues. Question 5. Operational review demonstrates that multicast traffic is being inefficiently distributed across the enterprise network, leading to increased bandwidth utilization and potential latency issues for critical applications. The network infrastructure utilizes Alcatel Lucent equipment. Which of the following approaches best addresses this multicast traffic distribution inefficiency while adhering to best practices for network resource management and service quality? Option A. Implement IGMP snooping and MLD snooping on all network switches to ensure multicast traffic is forwarded only to ports with active multicast listeners. Option B. Configure static multicast group memberships on all network devices to manually control traffic flow. Option C. Increase the bandwidth of all network links to accommodate the current inefficient multicast traffic distribution. Option D. Disable all multicast routing protocols to prevent any multicast traffic from traversing the network. Correct answer is A. Implement IGMP snooping and MLD snooping on all network switches to ensure multicast traffic is forwarded only to ports with active multicast listeners. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing multicast traffic flow within an Alcatel Lucent network, specifically concerning the efficient use of network resources and ensuring service quality for multicast applications. The challenge lies in balancing the overhead associated with multicast distribution with the need to deliver reliable and timely data streams. Incorrectly configured multicast protocols can lead to network congestion, increased latency, and wasted bandwidth, impacting the performance of latency-sensitive applications and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, if not managed effectively. The need for careful judgment arises from the intricate interplay between protocol configurations, network topology, and application requirements. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and data-driven optimization strategy that leverages the inherent capabilities of Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols to minimize redundant traffic. This includes implementing mechanisms like multicast listener discovery, MLD, snooping and IGMP snooping to ensure multicast traffic is forwarded only to active receivers, thereby reducing unnecessary bandwidth consumption and switch port utilization. Furthermore, employing techniques such as multicast boundary configurations and scoped multicast can prevent uncontrolled flooding of multicast groups across the network. This approach aligns with best practices for network efficiency and resource management, ensuring that network infrastructure is utilized optimally to support business objectives and deliver high-quality services. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to disable multicast snooping features entirely, assuming that all network segments require multicast traffic. This leads to inefficient distribution, as multicast packets are flooded to all ports, consuming unnecessary bandwidth and processing power on switches and end devices, and potentially causing congestion. This is a regulatory failure in terms of efficient resource utilization and adherence to network performance standards. Another incorrect approach is to indiscriminately enable multicast routing protocols on all network segments without a clear understanding of the multicast traffic patterns and receiver distribution. This can result in excessive control plane overhead, increased routing table complexity, and potential instability, especially in large or dynamic networks. Ethically, this represents a failure to exercise due diligence in network design and management, potentially impacting service availability. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on static multicast group configurations without dynamic listener discovery. While static configurations might seem simpler, they fail to adapt to changing network conditions and receiver presence, leading to either multicast traffic being sent to non-existent receivers or legitimate receivers being excluded. This is a failure in operational best practice and can lead to service degradation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic approach to multicast optimization. This begins with a thorough understanding of the network's multicast traffic requirements, including the types of applications, their receiver distribution, and their sensitivity to latency. Network monitoring tools should be used to identify existing multicast traffic patterns and potential areas of inefficiency. Based on this analysis, appropriate Alcatel Lucent multicast features, such as MLD/IGMP snooping, multicast boundaries, and scoped multicast, should be selectively implemented and configured. Regular performance monitoring and tuning are crucial to ensure ongoing optimization and adaptation to evolving network conditions. This data-driven and adaptive strategy ensures efficient resource utilization, high service quality, and compliance with network performance objectives. Question 6. The evaluation methodology shows that current multicast traffic distribution exhibits suboptimal resource utilization and occasional packet loss during peak demand. To address these issues and enhance overall multicast service performance, which of the following approaches would be considered the most effective and professionally sound strategy for process optimization within the Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols framework? Option A. Immediately upgrade all network hardware components involved in multicast traffic forwarding to the latest available models, assuming that increased capacity will inherently resolve performance bottlenecks. Option B. Conduct a thorough analysis of multicast traffic statistics and PIM neighbor states to identify specific multicast groups experiencing high join/leave rates or inefficient forwarding paths, followed by targeted adjustments to multicast scope, TTL time to live settings, or PIM mode where appropriate. Option C. Implement a broad policy of disabling multicast on all non-essential network segments and re-enabling it only on demand, without prior analysis of traffic patterns or protocol behavior. Option D. Rely on anecdotal reports from users experiencing intermittent multicast issues and make ad hoc configuration changes to PIM timers and group memberships as problems are reported. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough analysis of multicast traffic statistics and PIM neighbor states to identify specific multicast groups experiencing high join/leave rates or inefficient forwarding paths, followed by targeted adjustments to multicast scope, TTL time to live, settings, or PIM mode where appropriate. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing multicast traffic flow within a network infrastructure governed by Alcatel Lucent's multicast protocols, specifically within the context of the 4A0-108 exam's implied regulatory framework, which, for this exam, is assumed to be a generic, vendor-specific operational guideline rather than a specific national regulation, as no jurisdiction is explicitly stated beyond the exam scope. The challenge lies in balancing the efficiency of multicast delivery with the potential for network instability and resource contention, requiring a nuanced understanding of protocol behavior and network design principles. Careful judgment is required to select an optimization strategy that enhances performance without compromising the integrity or availability of multicast services. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven methodology for process optimization. This involves analyzing current multicast traffic patterns, identifying bottlenecks or inefficiencies through performance metrics, and then implementing targeted adjustments to multicast group management, PIM, protocol independent multicast, operation, or multicast routing policies. This aligns with the principles of sound network engineering and operational excellence, ensuring that changes are well understood, measurable, and contribute to overall network health and service quality. The absence of explicit external regulations means adherence to vendor best practices and established networking principles is paramount. Incorrect approaches fail professionally by either oversimplifying the optimization process, relying on anecdotal evidence, or implementing changes without proper validation. A purely reactive approach, for instance, addresses issues only after they manifest as service disruptions, which is inefficient and can lead to prolonged outages. Implementing changes without baseline measurements or performance monitoring neglects the fundamental principle of understanding the current state before attempting to improve it, increasing the risk of unintended consequences. Similarly, focusing solely on hardware upgrades without addressing underlying protocol configurations or traffic patterns is a misallocation of resources and unlikely to yield optimal results. These approaches demonstrate a lack of systematic problem solving and a disregard for the potential impact on network stability and service delivery. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define the optimization objective clearly. 2. Establish baseline performance metrics for multicast traffic. 3. Analyze current traffic patterns and protocol behavior to identify areas for improvement. 4. Propose specific, targeted optimization strategies based on the analysis. 5. Implement changes in a controlled environment or during scheduled maintenance windows. 6. Monitor performance post-implementation to validate effectiveness and identify any adverse effects. 7. Iterate the process as needed. Question 7. Investigation of the most effective strategy for optimizing multicast traffic flow within an Alcatel Lucent network, considering potential resource constraints and the need to maintain high service availability for multicast-dependent applications. Option A. Prioritize reducing the total number of multicast groups by merging them, irrespective of the impact on individual application traffic patterns. Option B. Apply multicast optimizations based on theoretical improvements without conducting any prior network analysis or pilot testing. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive network analysis to understand current multicast traffic patterns and resource utilization, followed by a phased pilot implementation of proposed optimizations with continuous performance monitoring. Option D. Immediately implement a new multicast configuration across the entire network, based on vendor best practices to achieve rapid resource consolidation. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive network analysis to understand current multicast traffic patterns and resource utilization, followed by a phased pilot implementation of proposed optimizations with continuous performance monitoring. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing multicast traffic flow within an Alcatel Lucent network, specifically concerning the efficient use of network resources and ensuring service quality for multicast applications. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for immediate cost savings through resource consolidation with the potential risks of service degradation, increased latency, and network instability if not managed meticulously. Network engineers must make informed decisions based on a deep understanding of multicast protocols and their impact on network performance, adhering to established best practices and any relevant operational guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, data-driven optimization strategy. This begins with thorough network monitoring and analysis to understand current multicast traffic patterns, resource utilization, and potential bottlenecks. Based on this data, a pilot implementation of the proposed optimization, e.g., consolidating multicast groups or adjusting PIM modes, is conducted in a controlled environment or on a subset of the network. Performance metrics are then rigorously evaluated against predefined benchmarks. If successful, the optimization is rolled out incrementally, with continuous monitoring to detect and address any adverse effects. This approach aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing network stability, service continuity, and risk mitigation. It ensures that optimizations are validated before widespread deployment, minimizing disruption and maintaining service-level agreements. This methodical process is implicitly supported by operational guidelines that emphasize careful planning, testing, and validation in network changes. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing multicast optimizations without prior comprehensive network analysis and performance benchmarking is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for due diligence and a failure to adhere to the implicit requirement of maintaining network integrity and service quality. This approach risks widespread service disruption, increased latency for critical applications, and potential network instability, which could violate service-level agreements and operational mandates. Directly applying a new multicast configuration across the entire network based solely on theoretical benefits or vendor recommendations, without pilot testing or validation, is another failure. This bypasses essential risk assessment and validation steps, exposing the network to unforeseen issues. It neglects the principle of responsible network management, which mandates a cautious and evidence-based approach to changes. Such an action could lead to significant operational downtime and reputational damage. Focusing solely on reducing the number of multicast groups without considering the impact on application performance or the underlying network topology is also problematic. While consolidation might seem efficient, it could lead to increased traffic duplication or suboptimal routing if not carefully planned. This approach prioritizes a single metric, group count, over holistic network health and application requirements, potentially violating operational objectives related to performance and reliability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach network optimization by first establishing clear objectives and success criteria. This involves gathering baseline performance data, understanding application requirements, and identifying potential risks. A phased implementation strategy, including pilot testing and rigorous monitoring, is crucial. Any proposed change should be evaluated against its potential impact on network stability, service quality, and resource utilization. Decision-making should be guided by a commitment to operational excellence, risk management, and adherence to established network engineering principles and any applicable operational guidelines. Question 8. What factors determine the most effective strategy for optimizing multicast protocol performance within an Alcatel Lucent network, considering both efficiency gains and operational stability? Option A. The immediate implementation of aggressive pruning rules for all multicast groups to reduce bandwidth usage across the entire network. Option B. Prioritizing the reduction of multicast group join times above all other performance metrics, regardless of impact on overall bandwidth efficiency. Option C. A comprehensive analysis of current multicast traffic patterns, identification of specific performance bottlenecks through metrics, and the targeted application of relevant Alcatel Lucent multicast features and configurations. Option D. The wholesale adoption of default multicast optimization settings provided by the Alcatel Lucent vendor without prior network-specific analysis. The correct answer is C. A comprehensive analysis of current multicast traffic patterns, identification of specific performance bottlenecks through metrics, and the targeted application of relevant Alcatel Lucent multicast features and configurations. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because optimizing multicast protocol performance in a live network environment requires a delicate balance between achieving desired efficiency and maintaining network stability. Network engineers must consider the potential impact of their optimization strategies on existing services and user experience, which can be significant in a large-scale Alcatel Lucent deployment. Careful judgment is required to select and implement changes that yield tangible benefits without introducing unforeseen issues. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven methodology, analyzing current multicast traffic patterns, identifying specific bottlenecks through performance metrics, and then testing targeted optimization techniques, such as adjusting multicast group scopes or implementing PIM sparse mode where appropriate. Engineers can ensure that changes are effective and have a measurable positive impact. This aligns with the principles of network engineering best practices, which emphasize proactive monitoring, root cause analysis, and controlled implementation of changes. While the 4A0-108 exam focuses on Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols, the underlying principles of process optimization are universally applicable and are implicitly supported by the need for efficient and reliable network operation, which is a core tenet of telecommunications regulations and industry standards aimed at ensuring service continuity and quality. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on aggressive pruning of multicast groups without understanding the traffic flow would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to the unintended disruption of legitimate multicast services, impacting users and potentially violating service level agreements, SLAs. Such an action would represent a failure to adhere to due diligence in network management and could be seen as a breach of professional responsibility to maintain network integrity. Another incorrect approach, such as blindly applying default optimization settings across all multicast domains without prior analysis, ignores the unique characteristics of different network segments and traffic types. This lack of tailored application can result in suboptimal performance or even degradation in some areas, demonstrating a failure to apply critical thinking and a disregard for the specific operational context, which is a hallmark of unprofessional conduct. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the network's current state and business requirements. This involves defining clear objectives for optimization, such as reducing bandwidth consumption or improving join/leave latency. Next, data collection and analysis are crucial to pinpoint specific areas for improvement. This should be followed by the evaluation of various optimization techniques, considering their potential impact and complexity. Finally, a phased implementation with rigorous testing and monitoring is essential to validate the effectiveness of the chosen approach and to quickly identify and rectify any adverse effects. Question 9. When evaluating process optimization for multicast traffic flow on an Alcatel Lucent network, which strategy best balances efficient resource utilization with the delivery of high-quality multicast services? Option A. disabling all multicast routing protocols and relying on unicast replication for all traffic to simplify network management and reduce complexity. Option B, aggressively increasing the multicast group size limit on all network devices to accommodate a larger number of potential receivers without considering the impact on device resources. Option C, increasing the TTL time to live for all multicast packets globally to ensure they reach a wider range of devices, regardless of network topology. Option D, implementing IGMP snooping on all switches and routers and configuring PIM sparse mode with appropriate rendezvous points to prune unnecessary multicast traffic and optimize delivery paths. Correct answer is D, implementing IGMP snooping on all switches and routers and configuring PIM sparse mode with appropriate rendezvous points to prune unnecessary multicast traffic and optimize delivery paths. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing multicast traffic flow within an Alcatel Lucent network, specifically concerning the efficient use of network resources and ensuring service quality for multicast applications. The challenge lies in balancing the overhead associated with multicast distribution with the need to deliver content reliably and with low latency. Network engineers must make informed decisions about multicast optimization techniques, considering their impact on overall network performance, scalability, and adherence to operational best practices. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of multicast optimization by leveraging Alcatel Lucent's specific features designed to enhance multicast efficiency. This involves understanding and applying techniques that reduce redundant traffic and improve resource utilization without compromising service delivery. Such an approach aligns with the implicit regulatory expectation of providing efficient and reliable network services, ensuring that network infrastructure is managed in a way that maximizes its value and minimizes waste. It demonstrates a proactive stance in network management, anticipating potential issues and implementing solutions that benefit the entire network ecosystem. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on disabling multicast features to simplify management would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of understanding of multicast's purpose and benefits. It would lead to inefficient unicast replication of traffic, consuming significantly more bandwidth and processing power, thereby degrading network performance and potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, for multicast-dependent applications. This demonstrates a disregard for network optimization principles and a failure to leverage the capabilities of the deployed equipment, which could be seen as a breach of professional duty to manage resources effectively. Another incorrect approach, such as indiscriminately increasing multicast group sizes without considering the underlying network topology and device capabilities, would also be professionally flawed. This could lead to multicast state explosion on network devices, overwhelming their control planes and data planes, resulting in packet loss and network instability. This approach fails to account for the scalability limitations of network hardware and the potential for adverse effects on other network services. It represents a reactive rather than a proactive management strategy, potentially causing significant service disruptions and requiring extensive troubleshooting. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the network's current state, the specific requirements of multicast applications, and the capabilities of the Alcatel Lucent equipment. This includes analyzing traffic patterns, identifying bottlenecks, and evaluating different optimization strategies based on their potential impact on performance, scalability, and resource utilization. A systematic approach, involving testing and validation of proposed changes in a controlled environment before full deployment, is crucial. Professionals should consult vendor documentation and best practice guides to ensure their decisions are technically sound and aligned with industry standards for network management and optimization. Question 10. Process analysis reveals that a large enterprise network utilizing Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols is experiencing intermittent packet loss and increased latency for several critical video conferencing streams. The network operations team is tasked with optimizing multicast traffic flow to improve these services without introducing new hardware. Which approach best addresses this challenge while adhering to Alcatel Lucent's multicast protocol guidelines and ensuring network stability? Option A. Implement a network-wide increase in multicast TTL values for all traffic, as this is a common method to improve reachability and reduce packet loss. Option B. Immediately reconfigure all multicast routing protocols across the entire network to a different mode, assuming this will resolve the issue for all traffic types. Option C. Prioritize the optimization efforts solely for the video conferencing streams by increasing their multicast group priority and bandwidth allocation, disregarding the potential impact on other multicast traffic. Option D. Conduct a detailed analysis of the existing multicast distribution trees and PIM configurations for the affected video conferencing streams, identifying potential bottlenecks or suboptimal RP placements, and then implement targeted tuning of PIM parameters and IGMP snooping configurations based on Alcatel Lucent's recommended optimization procedures. The correct answer is D. Conduct a detailed analysis of the existing multicast distribution trees and PIM configurations for the affected video conferencing streams, identifying potential bottlenecks or suboptimal RP placements, and then implement targeted tuning of PIM parameters and IGMP snooping configurations based on Alcatel Lucent's recommended optimization procedures. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network operations where optimizing multicast traffic flow directly impacts service quality and resource utilization. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for efficient multicast delivery with the long-term implications of architectural choices. Misjudgments can lead to increased latency, packet loss, inefficient bandwidth usage, and potential non-compliance with service-level agreements, SLAs, all of which have significant business and operational consequences. The complexity arises from the distributed nature of multicast and the potential for cascading effects across the network. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of Alcatel-Lucent's multicast protocols and their implementation within the specific network environment. This includes analyzing the current multicast distribution tree, identifying bottlenecks or suboptimal paths, and evaluating the impact of different optimization techniques such as PIM sparse mode tuning, IGMP snooping optimization, or the strategic placement of rendezvous points, RP. The best professional practice is to leverage Alcatel-Lucent's documented best practices and performance tuning guides for multicast, ensuring that any proposed changes are validated through simulation or controlled testing before deployment. This methodical approach minimizes risk and maximizes the likelihood of achieving the desired performance improvements while adhering to the operational guidelines and technical specifications inherent to the Alcatel-Lucent platform. This aligns with the professional responsibility to maintain network integrity and performance as per vendor recommendations and industry standards. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a broad, untested change across all multicast groups without prior analysis is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the principle of due diligence and responsible network management. Such an approach risks widespread service disruption, impacting multiple users and applications, which could lead to breaches of SLAs and reputational damage. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of understanding of the specific nuances of multicast traffic and the potential for unintended consequences. Applying a solution that prioritizes a single, high-profile multicast application without considering its impact on other traffic streams is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a failure to conduct a holistic network impact assessment. It can lead to resource contention, unfair bandwidth allocation, and degradation of service for other multicast users, potentially violating fairness principles and the spirit of universal service delivery. Relying solely on default multicast configurations without any optimization efforts, especially when performance issues are evident, represents a failure to meet professional obligations for network performance management. While defaults may be stable, they are rarely optimal. This passive approach can lead to sustained inefficiencies, increased operational costs due to over-provisioning, and a failure to proactively address potential performance degradation, which is contrary to best practices in network engineering. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach multicast optimization by first establishing clear performance metrics and baselines. This involves monitoring current multicast traffic patterns, identifying specific applications or groups experiencing issues, and understanding the underlying network topology and protocol configurations. The next step is to consult vendor-specific documentation, Alcatel-Lucent in this case, for recommended optimization techniques and best practices related to process optimization within multicast protocols. This should be followed by a detailed impact analysis of any proposed changes, considering all affected multicast groups and network segments. Finally, any changes should be implemented in a phased manner, with rigorous testing and monitoring at each stage to ensure successful deployment and to mitigate any unforeseen negative consequences. This systematic, evidence-based approach ensures that optimization efforts are effective, risk-averse, and aligned with professional standards and vendor guidelines. Question 11. The risk matrix shows a high probability of unauthorized multicast traffic disrupting critical services. Which of the following approaches best mitigates this risk within the context of Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols? Option A. Rely on the default configuration of multicast protocols, assuming internal traffic is benign and does not require specific multicast security measures. Option B. Implement strict access control lists, ACL, and multicast group filtering at network ingress points and distribution layers to permit only authorized multicast sources and groups. Option C. Disable multicast entirely for all services to eliminate the risk of unauthorized traffic, regardless of the performance impact. Option D. Focus exclusively on optimizing multicast traffic for maximum performance, deferring any security considerations until a disruption occurs. Correct answer is B. Implement strict access control lists, ACL, and multicast group filtering at network ingress points and distribution layers to permit only authorized multicast sources and groups. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge stemming from the inherent complexity of multicast protocol deployment and the potential for unintended consequences. The risk matrix highlights a critical vulnerability: the potential for unauthorized multicast traffic to disrupt legitimate services, impacting network stability and user experience. This requires careful judgment to balance the benefits of multicast, efficiency, scalability, with the imperative of network security and service integrity. The challenge lies in translating a technical risk identified in a matrix into actionable security policies and operational procedures that are both effective and compliant with the Alcatel Lucent Multicast Protocols framework, which implicitly governs the secure and efficient operation of these protocols. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves implementing robust access control mechanisms and traffic filtering at the network edge and within the multicast distribution points. This aligns with the principles of secure network design and the operational guidelines for managing multicast traffic as outlined in the 4A0-108 syllabus. Specifically, it emphasizes the proactive identification and mitigation of unauthorized multicast sources or destinations. By segmenting multicast domains and enforcing policies that permit only authorized multicast groups and sources, network administrators can effectively prevent the propagation of disruptive traffic. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified risk by applying established security principles to multicast traffic management, ensuring network resilience and adherence to the implicit security requirements of the protocol framework. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to solely rely on the absence of explicit blocking rules for all multicast traffic. This is a failure to implement proactive security measures. The regulatory framework, while not explicitly detailing every security permutation, mandates a secure and reliable network. Allowing all multicast traffic by default, without verification of source or group legitimacy, creates a significant vulnerability that could lead to service disruption, a direct contravention of the implied duty of care in network management. Another incorrect approach is to assume that all internal network traffic is inherently trustworthy and therefore does not require multicast-specific security controls. This overlooks the possibility of compromised internal devices or insider threats that could inject malicious multicast traffic. The professional responsibility extends to securing the internal network perimeter and internal segments against such threats, which is a fundamental aspect of network security that applies to multicast as much as any other traffic type. A further incorrect approach is to focus solely on the performance benefits of multicast without adequately considering the security implications. While multicast is designed for efficiency, this efficiency can be exploited if not properly secured. Neglecting security in favor of performance, especially when a risk matrix has identified a specific threat, is a failure to adhere to a balanced and responsible network management strategy. This can lead to regulatory scrutiny if service-level agreements are breached due to security lapses. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to network security. When a risk matrix identifies a specific threat, such as unauthorized multicast traffic, the immediate professional response should be to assess the potential impact and develop mitigation strategies. This involves understanding the capabilities and limitations of the multicast protocols being used, as per the 4A0-108 syllabus, and applying appropriate security controls. The decision-making process should prioritize the integrity and availability of network services, ensuring that security measures are not an afterthought, but an integral part of the network design and operational procedures. This proactive stance, informed by risk assessment and a thorough understanding of the relevant protocols and their security implications, is crucial for maintaining a secure and reliable network infrastructure. Question 12. The control framework reveals that a network administrator is tasked with optimizing multicast traffic delivery for a new video streaming service. The administrator is considering different approaches to manage the scope of multicast groups to ensure efficient resource utilization and prevent unintended traffic propagation. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for multicast scope management in a service provider environment? Option A. Configure multicast scopes to be as restrictive as possible, allowing traffic only within specific, well-defined network segments where the service is explicitly required. Option B. Set multicast scopes to a very broad, global scope to ensure that all potential subscribers can receive the multicast stream without any limitations. Option C. Disable multicast scope checks entirely to simplify configuration and allow multicast traffic to flow freely across all network segments. Option D. Focus solely on optimizing multicast group membership management without implementing any specific multicast scope restrictions. The correct answer is A. Configure multicast scopes to be as restrictive as possible, allowing traffic only within specific, well-defined network segments where the service is explicitly required. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent complexity of multicast routing protocols and the potential for misconfigurations to impact a wide range of services and users. The need to ensure efficient and reliable multicast delivery, particularly in a service provider environment governed by specific regulatory frameworks, requires a deep understanding of protocol behavior and adherence to established best practices. The professional challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of multicast optimization with the need for compliance and service integrity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of multicast routing as defined by Alcatel Lucent's implementation and aligns with the general expectations of network stability and performance. Specifically, understanding and configuring the multicast scope to prevent unintended propagation of multicast traffic is paramount. This ensures that multicast groups are only accessible to intended recipients, thereby conserving network resources and preventing potential denial of service conditions caused by excessive multicast traffic. Adhering to the defined scope limits is a fundamental aspect of responsible network design and operation, directly contributing to the overall reliability and security of the network. An incorrect approach that involves setting an excessively broad multicast scope without a clear justification fails to adhere to the principle of least privilege and resource conservation. This can lead to unnecessary bandwidth consumption and increased processing load on network devices, potentially impacting the performance of other services. From a regulatory perspective, while not explicitly a direct violation of a specific multicast protocol rule, it represents a failure in due diligence and responsible network management, which could be indirectly scrutinized if service degradation occurs. Another incorrect approach, such as disabling multicast scope checks entirely, is a severe ethical and professional failure. This bypasses a critical mechanism designed to control multicast traffic flow, opening the network to significant risks of uncontrolled flooding and instability. Such an action would be considered negligent and could lead to severe service disruptions, potentially violating service-level agreements and incurring significant financial and reputational damage. It demonstrates a disregard for established network engineering principles and a lack of understanding of the potential consequences. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on optimizing multicast group membership without considering the underlying scope, overlooks a fundamental aspect of multicast control. While efficient group management is important, it does not mitigate the risks associated with an improperly defined scope. This approach is incomplete and fails to address the root cause of potential multicast-related issues. Professionally, it signifies a lack of holistic network understanding and a tendency to address symptoms rather than underlying causes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the specific multicast protocol features being implemented, their intended purpose, and the potential impact of their configuration on the overall network. This includes consulting relevant Alcatel Lucent documentation, understanding the network topology and service requirements, and considering the implications of any configuration change on network stability, security, and resource utilization. A risk assessment should be performed before implementing any changes, and configurations should always adhere to the principle of least privilege and best practices for network control. Question 13. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for high-definition IPTV services requiring efficient multicast delivery. A service provider is planning to deploy this new service across its existing IP network, which currently carries critical unicast traffic. The network engineering team must determine the most appropriate multicast configuration strategy for Alcatel Lucent routers to ensure optimal performance and cost-effectiveness. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for this deployment scenario? Option A. Configure aggressive pruning timers on all multicast interfaces without prior analysis of traffic patterns, prioritizing immediate bandwidth reduction. Option B. Assume that the new multicast traffic will not significantly impact existing unicast services and proceed with a default multicast configuration. Option C. Deploy PIM dense mode across the entire network to ensure all routers receive multicast traffic, assuming this simplifies configuration and guarantees delivery. Option D. Implement PIM sparse mode with carefully tuned pruning timers and source-specific multicast (SSM), where applicable, after analyzing expected multicast group membership and traffic patterns for the IPTV service. The correct answer is D. Implement PIM sparse mode with carefully tuned pruning timers and source-specific multicast (SSM), where applicable, after analyzing expected multicast group membership and traffic patterns for the IPTV service. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge for a network engineer responsible for implementing Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols within a service provider environment. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of efficient multicast delivery with the business imperative of cost control and service level agreement (SLA) adherence. Specifically, the engineer must decide how to configure multicast routing and forwarding to meet the demands of a new IPTV service without incurring excessive bandwidth costs or negatively impacting existing services. Decision requires a deep understanding of multicast concepts like PIM sparse mode, dense mode, and the implications of different pruning mechanisms, all within the context of the 4A0-108 Alcatel Lucent Multicast Protocol syllabus. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the service's traffic patterns and the network's capacity before making configuration decisions. This involves detailed analysis of the IPTV service's multicast group usage, expected subscriber density per group, and the geographical distribution of these subscribers. By leveraging this data, the engineer can accurately select the most appropriate PIM mode, sparse or dense, and configure pruning strategies that minimize unnecessary traffic replication. This proactive, data-driven approach ensures that the new service is deployed efficiently, adheres to SLAs by providing reliable multicast streams, and avoids unnecessary operational expenditure related to bandwidth consumption. This aligns with professional ethics by ensuring responsible resource management and service delivery. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on deploying PIM dense mode across the entire network without prior analysis is professionally unacceptable. PIM dense mode assumes all routers are interested in all multicast traffic and can lead to significant network congestion and wasted bandwidth, especially in large networks with sparse multicast group membership. This failure to analyze traffic patterns and network topology directly contravenes the principle of efficient resource utilization and could lead to SLA breaches due to poor performance. Another incorrect approach that involves configuring aggressive pruning timers without understanding the impact on join/leave latency for multicast streams is also professionally flawed. While aggressive pruning can reduce bandwidth, it can also lead to delays in multicast stream delivery when new subscribers join or existing ones leave groups, potentially violating the responsiveness aspects of an SLA. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the trade-offs involved in multicast optimization. A third incorrect approach that neglects to consider the impact of multicast traffic on existing unicast services, assuming they will not be affected, is a critical oversight. Multicast traffic, especially if misconfigured or excessive, can consume significant router CPU and buffer resources, potentially impacting the performance of other critical services. This demonstrates a failure to perform a holistic network impact assessment, which is a fundamental aspect of professional network engineering. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the service requirements. Clearly define the technical and business requirements of the new service, including traffic profiles, expected user behavior, and SLA targets. 2. Analyze network state. Assess the current network topology, capacity, and existing traffic patterns. 3. Evaluate multicast options. Based on service requirements and network state, evaluate the suitability of different multicast protocols and configurations, e.g., PIM sparse vs. dense pruning strategies. 4. Simulate and test. Where possible, simulate or conduct controlled tests to predict the impact of proposed configurations. 5. Implement and monitor. Deploy the chosen configuration and implement robust monitoring to track performance, resource utilization, and SLA adherence. 6. Iterate and optimize. Continuously review monitoring data and optimize configurations as needed. Question 14. Strategic planning requires a network engineer to evaluate a proposed multicast configuration change on an Alcatel Lucent network. The change aims to simplify the management of a specific multicast application by using a less common but seemingly functional configuration parameter. The engineer must decide whether to proceed with the change based on limited information and a desire for operational expediency. Which approach best aligns with professional best practices and the responsible management of multicast protocols? Option A. Proceed with the change, but only after a brief review of general multicast concepts, without delving into the specifics of the Alcatel Lucent implementation. Option B. Thoroughly research the specific Alcatel Lucent multicast protocol documentation and vendor recommendations to understand the implications of the proposed configuration parameter before implementation. Option C. Propose the change based on a colleague's assurance that it has worked in a different network environment without verifying the specific protocol details. Option D. Implement the change immediately to address the operational need, assuming the parameter's functionality is similar to other multicast configurations the engineer has encountered. Correct answer is B. Thoroughly research the specific Alcatel Lucent multicast protocol documentation and vendor recommendations to understand the implications of the proposed configuration parameter before implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge where a network engineer must balance the immediate operational needs of a critical service with the long-term implications of multicast protocol configuration. The challenge lies in understanding the potential impact of a proposed shortcut on network stability, security, and resource utilization, especially within the context of Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols. The engineer must consider not only the technical feasibility, but also the adherence to established best practices and potential regulatory compliance, even if not explicitly stated as a direct regulatory violation, by ensuring the network operates predictably and securely. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough investigation of the proposed multicast configuration change. This includes understanding the specific Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols in use, e.g., PIM-SM, PIM-DM, their operational characteristics, and the potential side effects of deviating from standard configurations. It necessitates consulting official Alcatel Lucent documentation and potentially engaging with vendor support to ensure the proposed change is not only technically sound, but also aligns with recommended practices for stability and security. This approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a deep understanding of the technology and its implications, minimizing the risk of unintended consequences such as network loops, excessive resource consumption, or security vulnerabilities. It demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining a robust and reliable network infrastructure, which indirectly supports operational integrity and service availability, key concerns in any regulated telecommunications environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the change without full understanding or testing represents a significant professional failure. This approach ignores the complexity of multicast protocols and the potential for unforeseen issues. It could lead to network instability, service disruptions, and security breaches, which, while not a direct violation of a specific 4A0-108 regulation, would contravene general principles of network management and operational responsibility expected in a professional setting. Proposing the change based solely on a perceived similarity to another protocol or vendor's implementation is also professionally unacceptable. Multicast protocols, even those with similar goals, can have distinct operational nuances and configuration requirements. Relying on analogies without verifying specific Alcatel Lucent protocol behavior is a recipe for misconfiguration and potential network problems. This demonstrates a lack of technical rigor and an insufficient understanding of the specific platform being managed. Accepting the change based on a colleague's informal recommendation without independent verification is another failure. Professional responsibility dictates that critical network changes should be validated through proper procedures, including testing and documentation review. Relying on anecdotal evidence or informal advice bypasses essential quality assurance steps and increases the risk of errors. This approach undermines the principles of accountability and systematic problem solving in network engineering. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a systematic and evidence-based approach to network configuration changes. This involves 1. Clearly defining the problem or requirement. 2. Researching and understanding the specific technologies and protocols involved, referencing official documentation and vendor guidelines. 3. Developing a proposed solution with a clear understanding of its potential impacts. 4. Thoroughly testing the proposed solution in a controlled environment before deployment. 5. Documenting the change and its rationale. 6. Monitoring the network post-implementation. This structured decision-making process ensures that changes are implemented safely, effectively, and with minimal risk to network operations. Question 15. Compliance review shows that PIMSM neighbor flapping is intermittently occurring on several interfaces within the Alcatel Lucent multicast network. The network engineering team is under pressure to restore full multicast service stability immediately. Which of the following actions represents the most professional and compliant approach to resolving this issue? Option A. Thoroughly investigate the PIMSM configuration, logs, and traffic patterns on the affected routers to identify the root cause of the neighbor flapping before implementing any changes. Option B. Search online forums for quick fixes and apply the most frequently suggested solution without detailed verification. Option C. Reboot all routers involved in the multicast domain to clear any potential transient issues. Option D. Immediately disable PIMSM on all interfaces exhibiting neighbor flapping to prevent further instability. Correct answer is A. Thoroughly investigate the PIMSM configuration, logs, and traffic patterns on the affected routers to identify the root cause of the neighbor flapping before implementing any changes. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a network engineer to balance the immediate need for network stability and performance with the long-term implications of security vulnerabilities and compliance requirements. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass essential security protocols, potentially exposing the network to future threats and violating regulatory mandates. Careful judgment is required to ensure that immediate fixes do not compromise the integrity and security of the multicast infrastructure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the multicast protocol's behavior and potential vulnerabilities within the Alcatel Lucent framework. By investigating the root cause of the PIMSM neighbor flapping, the engineer adheres to a systematic problem-solving methodology. This includes examining logs, configuration, and traffic patterns related to PIMSM, ensuring that any resolution addresses the underlying issue rather than just the symptom. This aligns with the principles of robust network management and security, which are implicitly or explicitly mandated by regulatory frameworks that expect diligent maintenance and security posture, specifically within the context of a regulated environment. Even if not explicitly stated for this exam, the implication of compliance review is that such a context exists. Proactive identification and remediation of potential security weaknesses are paramount. This approach ensures that the network remains compliant with any security standards and best practices that govern its operation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately disabling PIMSM on affected interfaces. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it represents a reactive, rather than proactive, solution that sacrifices functionality and potentially security for expediency. Disabling a core multicast protocol without understanding the cause can lead to service degradation for legitimate multicast users and may violate service-level agreements, SLAs, or regulatory requirements that mandate the availability of specific network services. It also fails to address the root cause, leaving the network vulnerable to similar issues in the future. Another incorrect approach is to simply reboot the affected routers. While reboots can sometimes resolve transient issues, they do not address the underlying problem causing the PIMSM neighbor flapping. This is a failure in professional diligence and potentially a regulatory oversight because it does not involve a root cause analysis. Relying on reboots as a primary troubleshooting step can mask deeper configuration errors or protocol misbehaviors that could have significant security implications or lead to recurring outages, thus failing to meet the expected standard of care for network stability and security. A third incorrect approach is to consult external, non-sanctioned forums for immediate solutions without verifying their applicability to the specific Alcatel Lucent multicast implementation. This poses a significant regulatory and ethical risk. Information from unverified sources may not be compatible with the specific Alcatel Lucent hardware and software, potentially leading to further network instability or introducing security vulnerabilities. It also bypasses established internal support channels and best practices for network troubleshooting, which are often designed to ensure compliance with internal policies and external regulations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured troubleshooting methodology that begins with understanding the problem's context and symptoms. This involves leveraging available documentation, logs, and diagnostic tools specific to the vendor's equipment, Alcatel Lucent in this case, and protocols, PIMSM. The process should prioritize identifying the root cause before implementing a solution. If immediate mitigation is required, it should be a temporary measure that is clearly documented and followed by a thorough investigation. Professionals must also be aware of any relevant regulatory frameworks that govern network operation, security, and service availability, ensuring that their actions are compliant and ethically sound. Escalation to vendor support or senior engineers should be considered when internal expertise is insufficient. Question 16. Strategic planning requires a comprehensive approach to network infrastructure design. When implementing multicast services on Alcatel Lucent equipment, what is the most effective strategy to ensure efficient traffic distribution, scalability, and security, considering the diverse needs of stakeholders? Option A. Prioritize enabling multicast for all applications immediately, without a detailed analysis of traffic patterns or potential network impact. Option B. Enable multicast functionality without specific configuration for access control, assuming internal users will not abuse the service. Option C. Deploy PIM-dense mode across the entire network to ensure all devices receive multicast traffic, simplifying initial setup. Option D. Implement PIM-sparse mode with carefully configured rendezvous points and robust access control lists to manage multicast group membership and traffic flow. The correct answer is D. Implement PIM-sparse mode with carefully configured rendezvous points and robust access control lists to manage multicast group membership and traffic flow. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in network design and implementation, specifically concerning the efficient and secure delivery of multicast traffic within an Alcatel Lucent environment. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of multicast protocols, such as PIM, protocol independent multicast, with the operational and business needs of the organization. Stakeholders, including network engineers, security teams, and application owners, will have differing priorities and perspectives. Network engineers will focus on performance and scalability, security teams on preventing unauthorized access and denial of service attacks, and application owners on ensuring reliable delivery of their multicast streams. Making the correct decision requires a thorough understanding of multicast complexities, potential vulnerabilities, and the specific capabilities of the Alcatel Lucent platform, all within the context of the 4A0-108 exam's defined regulatory framework. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a proactive and comprehensive assessment of the network's multicast requirements, including traffic patterns, group sizes, and security implications, followed by the implementation of PIM sparse mode, PIM-SM, with appropriate rendezvous point, RP, configuration and access control lists, ACL. This approach is best professional practice because PIM-SM is generally more scalable and efficient for larger networks than PIM-dense mode, PIM-DM, as it avoids flooding multicast traffic to all network segments. Proper RP configuration ensures that multicast sources can efficiently establish multicast distribution trees. The use of ACLs is critical for security, allowing administrators to control which sources can send to specific multicast groups and which receivers can join those groups, thereby preventing unauthorized access and potential denial of service attacks. This aligns with the general principles of network security and resource management expected within any regulated telecommunications environment, ensuring service integrity and preventing misuse. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing PIM-dense mode, PIM-DM, without considering network size or traffic patterns is professionally unacceptable because PIM-DM floods multicast traffic to all network segments, which can lead to significant bandwidth wastage and increased processing load on network devices, especially in large or complex networks. This can negatively impact overall network performance and potentially lead to denial of service conditions, violating the principle of providing a reliable and efficient service. Deploying multicast without any form of access control or security measures is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This exposes the network to significant security risks, including unauthorized multicast group participation, spoofed source addresses, and potential denial of service attacks that could disrupt legitimate services. Such a failure directly contravenes the fundamental requirement to protect network infrastructure and services from malicious activity and unauthorized access, which is a cornerstone of telecommunications regulations. Focusing solely on enabling multicast functionality, without considering the specific needs of applications or the potential impact on network resources, is also professionally unsound. This can lead to suboptimal performance, increased operational overhead, and a failure to meet the service level agreements, SLAs, for the applications relying on multicast. It demonstrates a lack of holistic network design and stakeholder consideration, which is essential for effective network management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of business and application requirements. This should be followed by a detailed technical assessment of the network infrastructure and the capabilities of the Alcatel Lucent platform. A risk assessment, particularly concerning security and performance, is crucial. The selection of multicast modes and configuration parameters should be based on these assessments, prioritizing scalability, efficiency, and security. Continuous monitoring and optimization are also vital to ensure ongoing network health and performance. This systematic approach ensures that technical decisions align with business objectives and adhere to relevant regulatory and ethical standards. Question 17. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for real-time video conferencing across multiple departments within a large enterprise. The network infrastructure utilizes Alcatel Lucent equipment, and the IT department is seeking to implement an efficient multicast solution to deliver this video traffic without overwhelming the network. The primary concern is to ensure that multicast traffic is delivered only to authorized recipients and does not consume excessive bandwidth on critical network links. Considering the Alcatel Lucent 4A0-108 multicast protocol syllabus, which approach best addresses these requirements. Option A. Implement protocol independent multicast sparse mode, PIM-SM, with carefully configured rendezvous points, RP, to control multicast group distribution and leverage unicast routing for initial group joins, thereby limiting the scope of multicast traffic and enhancing control over bandwidth usage. Option B. Configure multicast to operate without any specific mode, PIM-SM or PIM-DM, and rely solely on the default behavior of the network devices, hoping that the traffic will find its way to the intended recipients efficiently. Option C. Deploy protocol-independent multicast dense mode, PIM-DM, across the entire network, assuming that all devices will eventually need to receive the video streams, thereby simplifying initial configuration, but potentially leading to significant bandwidth consumption on all network segments. Option D. Utilize a broadcast-based approach for video distribution, as it is the simplest to configure and ensures all devices receive the data, without considering the implications for network performance or security. The correct answer is A. Implement protocol-independent multicast sparse mode, PIM-SM, with carefully configured rendezvous points, RP, to control multicast group distribution and leverage unicast routing for initial group joins, thereby limiting the scope of multicast traffic and enhancing control over bandwidth usage. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a network engineer tasked with implementing multicast services in a large enterprise network. The challenge lies in balancing the technical requirements of efficient multicast delivery with the security and resource management concerns of different business units. The engineer must understand the implications of various multicast distribution methods on network performance, bandwidth utilization, and potential security vulnerabilities, all while adhering to internal IT policies and potentially external regulatory guidelines related to data handling and network access, if applicable within the Alcatel Lucent 4A0-108 context. Careful judgment is required to select a solution that is both technically sound and aligns with the organization's operational and security objectives. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough understanding of the underlying multicast protocols and their operational characteristics. By evaluating the trade-offs between different multicast distribution methods, e.g., PIM sparse mode vs. PIM dense mode, or the use of rendezvous points, in the context of the specific application's traffic patterns and the network topology, the engineer ensures an optimized and secure solution. This proactive, technically grounded approach minimizes the risk of performance degradation, unauthorized access, or inefficient resource allocation, which are critical for maintaining network stability and meeting business needs. Adherence to Alcatel Lucent's recommended practices for multicast deployment, as covered in the 4A0-108 syllabus, is paramount. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the simplest implementation, without considering the specific application's needs or network impact, would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to excessive bandwidth consumption, increased network latency, or even security risks if multicast traffic is not properly contained or controlled. Such an approach fails to demonstrate due diligence and technical expertise, potentially violating internal IT service-level agreements or best practices for network resource management. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes a single, unverified technical solution without consulting stakeholders or understanding the application's requirements is also professionally flawed. This can result in a solution that is technically feasible but does not meet the actual business needs, leading to user dissatisfaction and the need for costly rework. It demonstrates a lack of collaborative problem-solving and a failure to consider the broader impact of the technical decision. A further incorrect approach that ignores potential security implications of multicast, such as the possibility of unauthorized receivers or denial-of-service attacks, is ethically and professionally unsound. Multicast traffic, if not properly secured, can expose sensitive data or disrupt network operations. Responsible network engineer must consider security as an integral part of any network design. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Understand the business requirement and the specific application's needs for multicast. 2. Analyze the technical options available within the Alcatel Lucent framework, considering the implications of each on network performance, scalability, and security. 3. Evaluate the trade-offs of each option against the identified requirements and constraints. 4. Consult with relevant stakeholders, application owners, security teams, operations, to gather input and ensure alignment. 5. Select the solution that best balances technical efficiency, security, and business objectives, documenting the rationale for the decision. 6. Implement and monitor the solution, making adjustments as necessary. Question 18. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a planned upgrade to Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols on the core network infrastructure may introduce instability if not managed meticulously. Considering the potential for widespread disruption and the need to maintain service continuity, which of the following deployment strategies best mitigates these risks? Option A. Immediately deploy the new multicast protocols across all core network devices simultaneously to leverage the benefits of the upgrade as quickly as possible, with a plan to address any issues that arise post-deployment. Option B. Prioritize the configuration of multicast routing tables and group memberships across the entire core network before enabling the new protocols, to ensure all potential paths are immediately available upon activation. Option C. Conduct a phased rollout of the new multicast protocols, starting with a small, isolated segment of the core network, followed by extensive validation and monitoring before proceeding to wider deployment, with a defined rollback procedure. Option D. Enable the new multicast protocols on all core network devices and rely on existing network monitoring tools to detect any anomalies, assuming the protocols will function as expected based on vendor documentation. The correct answer is A. Immediately deploy the new multicast protocols across all core network devices simultaneously to leverage the benefits of the upgrade as quickly as possible, with a plan to address any issues that arise post-deployment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the implementation of Alcatel Lucent multicast protocols within a network infrastructure. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for efficient multicast traffic delivery with the imperative to maintain network stability and security, especially when dealing with potential misconfigurations or unexpected protocol behaviors. The decision maker must navigate the complexities of multicast routing, state management, and the potential for unintended consequences, such as broadcast storms or unauthorized access to multicast streams. This requires a deep understanding of the Alcatel Lucent-specific implementations and their interaction with the broader network environment, demanding careful consideration of operational impact and adherence to established best practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and phased deployment strategy, prioritizing thorough validation and monitoring at each stage. This aligns with best professional practices for network engineering, emphasizing a measure twice, cut once philosophy. Specifically, it involves leveraging Alcatel Lucent's documented best practices for multicast configuration, which typically include 1. Initial configuration on a limited set of devices or a lab environment to test functionality and performance. 2. Gradual rollout to production, starting with non-critical segments. 3. Continuous monitoring of multicast group membership, traffic levels, and router resource utilization, CPU memory, using Alcatel Lucent's Network Management System, NMS, or Command Line Interface (CLI) tools. 4. Implementing appropriate multicast scoping and access control mechanisms to prevent unauthorized participation and limit the blast radius of potential issues. 5. Having a well-defined rollback plan in place. This methodical approach minimizes risk by allowing for early detection and remediation of issues before they impact the entire network. It directly supports the operational integrity and security objectives inherent in network management, reflecting a commitment to reliability and service continuity. Incorrect approaches analysis. A hasty, full-scale deployment without prior validation poses significant risks. This approach fails to account for the potential for misconfigurations, incompatibilities, or unforeseen interactions between multicast components and existing network services. Such a failure could lead to widespread network disruption, including broadcast storms that overwhelm network devices and links, or the unintended leakage of multicast traffic to unauthorized segments, creating security vulnerabilities. This directly contravenes the principle of due diligence in network deployment and operational management. Implementing multicast without adequate monitoring or a rollback strategy is also professionally unacceptable. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and preparedness for potential operational issues. If problems arise, the inability to quickly diagnose and revert changes can lead to prolonged outages and significant business impact. This neglects the critical aspect of incident response and disaster recovery planning, which are fundamental to maintaining network availability and trustworthiness. Focusing solely on enabling multicast functionality without considering its impact on network resources, such as router CPU and memory, is another flawed approach. Alcatel Lucent multicast implementations, like any complex protocol, can consume significant resources, especially under heavy load or with a large number of multicast groups. Ignoring this can lead to performance degradation, device instability, and unexpected service interruptions, all of which are detrimental to network operations. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks associated with the proposed multicast implementation, e.g., misconfiguration, performance impact, security breaches. 2. Assessing the likelihood and impact of each identified risk. 3. Developing mitigation strategies for high-priority risks, e.g., phased deployment, rigorous testing, monitoring, access controls. 4. Prioritizing actions that ensure network stability, security, and efficient operation, aligning with Alcatel Lucent's recommended practices and general network engineering principles. 5. Establishing clear communication channels and escalation procedures for any issues encountered during or after deployment. Question 19. Quality control measures reveal that a network engineer has proposed using a multicast group address range of 224.0.0.100 to 224.0.0.150 for new video conferencing application within an Alcatel Lucent network. Considering the established guidelines for multicast address allocation, what is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Reject the proposed range and select a range from the 232.0.0.0/8 block, ensuring it is outside the 224.0.0.0/24 reserved subnet. Option B. Reassign the proposed range for internal administrative purposes and select a different multicast range for the video conferencing application. Option C. Accept the proposed range as it falls within the general multicast address space and is unlikely to cause immediate issues. Option D. Utilize the proposed range but implement strict access control lists to prevent conflicts with other network services. The correct answer is A. Reject the proposed range and select a range from the 232.0.0.0/8 block, ensuring it is outside the 224.0.0.0/24 reserved subnet. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the implementation of multicast protocols within an Alcatel Lucent network, specifically concerning the management of multicast group addresses. The challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen multicast group address range is both compliant with established standards and avoids potential conflicts with other network services or future expansions. Mismanagement of these addresses can lead to inefficient network operation, service disruptions, and security vulnerabilities. The need for careful judgment arises from the potential impact on network performance and the adherence to best practices in network design and management. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves selecting a multicast group address range that adheres to the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority (IANA) guidelines for multicast addresses, specifically the range 224.0.0.0 to 239.255.255. 255 is designated for multicast use. Within this range, the 224.0.0.0/24 subnet is reserved for local network control block multicast and should not be used for general application multicast. Therefore, choosing a range outside of this reserved subnet, such as 232.0.0.0/8, is a best professional practice. This ensures compliance with global standards, minimizes the risk of conflicts with essential network control protocols, and provides ample address space for current and future multicast applications. This aligns with the principle of responsible network resource allocation and adherence to established technical standards, which are implicitly expected in professional network engineering. Incorrect approaches analysis. Using a multicast group address range that falls within the 224.0.0.0/24 subnet, e.g., 224.0.0.1 to 224.0.0.255, is professionally unacceptable. This range is reserved for local network control block multicast, which includes protocols like OSPF and PIM. Assigning application-specific multicast traffic to this range would directly conflict with these critical network control protocols, leading to routing instability, packet loss, and potential network outages. This represents a failure to adhere to fundamental network protocol specifications and a disregard for network stability. Selecting a multicast group address range from the reserved multicast address space for specific administrative purposes, e.g., using 224.0.1.0/24 for internal administrative tasks is also professionally unsound. While it might seem like a contained solution, it encroaches upon a designated range for specific purposes and could still lead to unforeseen conflicts if those purposes evolve, or if other network segments inadvertently attempt to use addresses within that range for their intended functions. This demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to respect the defined boundaries of network address spaces. Choosing a multicast group address range that is not within the officially designated multicast address space, e.g., using an address from the unicast range like 192.168.1.100 is fundamentally incorrect and would result in network failure. Multicast traffic is specifically routed and handled differently than unicast traffic. Using an address outside the multicast range would mean that routers would not recognize it as multicast traffic, and it would not be forwarded to multicast group members, rendering the multicast service non-functional. This is a direct violation of networking principles and would lead to a complete breakdown of the intended multicast functionality. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established standards and best practices. This involves 1. Understanding the scope and requirements of the multicast implementation. 2. Consulting relevant documentation and standards, e.g., IANA guidelines for multicast addresses. 3. Identifying reserved or restricted address ranges and avoiding them. 4. Selecting an address range that offers sufficient capacity and minimizes the risk of future conflicts. 5. Documenting the chosen address range and its justification. In this case, the decision-making process must begin with an awareness of the IANA multicast address allocation and the specific reservations within that allocation. The professional must then actively choose a range that is both available and appropriate for application-level multicast, ensuring long-term network stability and interoperability. Question 20. Operational review demonstrates that multicast traffic is not flowing between certain segments of the network, leading to isolated multicast domains. Analysis of the PIMSM configuration reveals that while RPs are configured and reachable, the group-to-RP mappings are not being propagated consistently across the entire multicast domain. What is the most appropriate initial troubleshooting step to address this multicast segmentation? Option A. Verify the PIMSM bootstrap router, BSR, election process and ensure the designated BSR is correctly elected and advertising its role. Option B. Immediately reconfigure all multicast group ranges and their associated rendezvous points, RP, to ensure consistency. Option C. Disable PIMSM on all network segments experiencing multicast connectivity issues to isolate the problem. Option D. Examine the unicast routing tables on affected routers to identify any potential reachability issues for multicast sources or receivers. Correct answer is A. Verify the PIMSM bootstrap router, BSR, election process and ensure the designated BSR is correctly elected and advertising its role. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in network operations where a multicast routing protocol's behavior, specifically PIMSM's use of the bootstrap router, BSR, mechanism, leads to unexpected network segmentation. The challenge lies in diagnosing the root cause of the segmentation without disrupting existing multicast services or introducing further instability. The professional difficulty stems from the need to balance rapid problem resolution with the imperative to maintain service availability and adhere to established network design principles and potential service level agreements, SLAs, that might implicitly or explicitly govern multicast reachability. The complexity is amplified by the distributed nature of multicast and the potential for subtle configuration errors to have widespread effects. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic investigation of the PIMSM BSR election and operation. This entails verifying the BSR priority settings on all potential BSR candidates and ensuring that the intended BSR is correctly elected and actively advertising its role. The rationale is that PIMSM relies on a single, designated BSR to propagate group-to-RP mappings throughout the network. If the BSR election process is flawed, or if the elected BSR is not functioning correctly, multicast traffic will not be routed to the correct rendezvous points, RP, leading to the observed segmentation. This approach directly addresses the core mechanism responsible for multicast domain partitioning in PIMSM and aligns with best practices for network troubleshooting by focusing on the protocol's fundamental operational requirements. Adherence to Alcatel Lucent's recommended configuration guidelines for PIMSM, which would be implicitly covered by the 4A0-108 exam syllabus, is paramount. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately reconfigure multicast group ranges or RP addresses without first diagnosing the BSR issue. This is problematic because it attempts to fix a symptom, segmentation, without addressing the underlying cause, BSR failure. Such actions could lead to further misconfigurations, increased network instability, and potentially violate the intended network design, making troubleshooting more difficult and increasing the risk of extended downtime. Another incorrect approach would be to disable PIMSM entirely on affected segments. While this might temporarily restore unicast connectivity, it would completely eliminate multicast services in those areas, which is unacceptable if multicast is a critical function. This approach fails to resolve the multicast routing problem and instead opts for a complete service removal, which is a drastic measure and not a solution. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on unicast routing protocols, assuming the multicast issue is a byproduct of unicast problems. Multicast routing operates independently of unicast routing for its control plane e.g. PIM hellos, BSR messages, and data plane forwarding e.g. multicast forwarding tables. While unicast reachability is a prerequisite for multicast, a problem with multicast segmentation is rarely a direct fault of the unicast routing protocol itself, unless there are underlying network connectivity issues that are being misattributed. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured troubleshooting methodology. This begins with clearly defining the problem and its scope. Next, gather relevant data, such as router logs, PIM neighbor states, BSR status, and RP reachability information. Formulate hypotheses based on the gathered data and the known behavior of the multicast protocol, PIMSM in this case. Test these hypotheses systematically, starting with the most likely causes, such as the BSR mechanism. Prioritize actions that are least disruptive to ongoing services. Document all findings and actions taken. In this scenario, the decision-making process should prioritize understanding the PIMSM BSR election and operation as the primary hypothesis due to the nature of the observed segmentation.